A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another session of Business Digest. My name is Dana Iriza, and I'll be taking you through today's show. So let's have a look on our today's top stories. Now, with the help of advanced technologies, human settlement seems to expand globally. Now, some organizations are looking into establishing human settlement on planet Mars. Will this be possible? Join me as we look more into this story. Impactite, shown to preserve signs of life on Earth, was discovered on Mars and could contain signs of ancient life if life ever existed on the planet. On June 7, 2018, NASA announced that the Curiosity rover had discovered organic molecules in sedimentary rocks dating to 3 billion years old. Mars is now an only planet known for currently feasibly supporting human life and will be humankind's first step to become a multiplanetary species. Business Digest got to speak with Mars One, an organization aiming at establishing a permanent human settlement on Mars. Before carefully selecting and training crews that will depart to Mars, several unnamed missions will be completed, establishing a habitable settlement waiting for the first astronaut to arrive. The Mars One crew will go to Mars not to simply visit, but to live, explore, and create a second hand for humanity. The first men and women to go to Mars are going there to stay. Thank you so much, Ms. Adriana Marais, for taking the time to have an interview with Business Digest of Rwanda TV.
My pleasure.
Now, I've watched your presentation. I think it's quite interesting, the entire program of promoting settlement, human settlement on planet Mars. Now, for our viewers out there who are not there to watch the presentation, they're really curious. Like, they want to know what's the motive behind this. Why would a group of people come together and promote human settlement on planet Mars? How would you address that?
So I think since humans have been on planet Earth, we have always been explorers. Even before we had rockets, we were exploring by foot, we were making kayaks, crossing oceans, later by ship, by train, by motor car, by aeroplane, and now by rockets. So I think exploration is really part of what we are as humans. So I think we are really lucky to be alive at this point in history when the possibility technologically exists to actually explore further than Earth, further than the Moon, to our next door neighbor planet Mars. So what is the point of exploring, as you've asked? Curiosity, I would say, research, but also to inspire people. So the Apollo mission, which many of us were not around to see, this was 1969 until 1972, inspired so many young people. So there's actually research that shows that the number of students who enrolled in STEM degrees, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics degrees, as a result of having watched people walking on the moon, spiked per capita like never before and never since. This really inspired students to get involved in STEM, believing that with technology, with science, they can do seemingly impossible things, truly inspirational things. So
after humans have finally made it to planet Mars, how do they survive? Because humans need basic needs for survival. We need food, we need shelter, we need water. How can you explain that? Like, how do we survive on planet Mars?
So this is actually another important part of getting to Mars, is to train, living in extreme environments, because this can be useful for Earth. So the needs that we have on Earth, as you say, are the same needs we have on Mars. So this is like air, power, water, food, data. These things are the basic requirements for people living on any planet. So how will we do this on Mars? Well, power, solar power. So the kind of technologies that we'll take to Mars include solar panels. The more efficient they are, the cheaper they are, the more robust they are, the longer they last, in other words, the better. And this is beneficial for Earth. So the kind of technology that we develop for Mars is also useful for Earth. We know we need to switch to solar. We have all this beautiful sunlight, and to demonstrate that a society can be completely solar powered will be demonstrated by the people living on Mars, because we won't be burning coal, for example. Food, maybe you're curious, we would grow food, yes, of course, the traditional way. Agriculture, humans always have grown plants, and we will do the same. But we will grow them indoors. So in kind of indoor greenhouses where we control the temperature, where we control the water over the roots, so we use as little water as possible, just trickling drop by drop on the roots of the plant. So trees are maybe going to be difficult, but for sure, tomatoes, leafy greens, any crop that can be less than 1 meter, we will grow to eat. Corn, for example, for a staple. That's the kind of thing we'll grow inside our habitat. The air on Mars is not breathable. This is the big difference.
Since Mars One's launch in 2011, about $1 million has been raised, mainly through donations, sales of merchandise, private investments, astronaut applications, sponsorships and partnerships, and speaking engagements. This has been spent on building a small core team, the first conceptual design studies performed by Lockheed Martin and Paragon Space Development Corporation, developing and executing the first rounds of the astronaut selection program, public outreach and operation costs. Do you have any investors involved in this whole entire program? And if so, how do you get to have them to dream about the entire voyage to planet Mars?
In fact, the Mars One project has always had financial problems because it's a startup essentially. It's got a foundation which is non-profit, which controls the mission, and a for-profit which is trying to raise money to do the trip. So this is difficult. They have financial issues. We can understand it costs billions of dollars to get to Mars. But the funding model is basically a broadcasting model. So I don't know if anyone watched the boxing match, Mayweather-McGregor. This boxing match was watched by hundreds of millions of people around the world and raised hundreds of millions of dollars in broadcasting revenue. So this is just an example of how much money can be made through a television event. So the idea with the Mars One project is to get investors who would fund the documentary series essentially, which would film the selection of 24 from 100, will film the training and eventually the departure of the first teams that will leave from Earth to Mars. We'll of course keep watching the teams. If I'm one of them, we'll be recording and sending footage back to Earth on what we're doing on Mars. And the idea that millions, if not billions of people would watch this show would be the funding model behind supporting the mission.
So we're about to conclude this interview, but just have one last question to ask. After the entire team has finally made it to Mars, under what flag will the settlement operate, or will it become a joint endeavor of mankind?
It is great that Mars One is a private company that tries to be as diverse as possible in terms of the crew. So we have 6 Africans, 1 Nigerian, 1 Egyptian and 4 South Africans amongst the 100, and people from all other continents from all over the world. So we are an international group, and we will therefore bring no flag. We will establish a new community, a new society without national boundaries. So if we saw NASA, for example, landing the first time on Mars, the American flag is going to be there just like the moon. And I think we need to move away from this kind of thinking where we have boundaries between what is a human endeavor. This is a project for all humanity. Thank you so much, Ms. Marais, for taking the time to have this interview. It's something I've been really looking forward to talk about. It's a very interesting topic, and I'm glad you're here and we have actually got to discuss about this. And I'm also really planning to follow up on this story and see where this whole goes, and hopefully maybe one day I could also make it to planet Mars and see how that place looks like. For us. Thank you so much. As an attempt to find solutions to water shortage issues in the country, Unilever launched a community-based social project that is supplying clean water to over 10,000 beneficiaries in Nyarugugu district, Munini sector. According to Kelvin Courier, country director of Unilever Rwanda, 4 sunlight water centers have been launched after being constructed at a cost of $50,000 under the project dubbed Sunlight Isuku Project, loosely translated as Sunlight, the source of hygiene. The Sunlight water centers have tap water, clean pumped water, and a retail kiosk selling household items owned and managed by a local entrepreneur.
In about 200 countries, which is Unilever registered businesses in about 200 countries, and the size of our business about 50 billion euros, give or take. So with such a huge company, we then, our CEO Paul Polman, our former CEO Paul Polman, decided that it's actually a good idea to not only do business for profit, but to do business so we can also help the communities where we live in, because we have such a massive wide reach. We work with customers across the globe, we work with consumers across the globe as well, and we work in communities everywhere that we are. So instead of just going in and selling product and making money and just getting out of it, we decided to then create what we call the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, which is the broader strategy across everything that we do in the business has to be done under the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. So what is a Unilever Sustainable Living Plan? It has 2 points. The first one is we intend to reduce our environmental footprint by half. Meaning, if we are emitting carbon monoxide into the environment, you want to do that. We want to halve that. Meaning that if you have any adverse environmental impact, you want to reduce that by half, which is a big and daring ambition. And then the second point is that we want to double the size of our business while doing that, because if our business is bigger, then we know that we have a lot more impact. What does that mean for us in Rwanda? So in Rwanda, we then looked at what all the possibilities were, and all the problems in the community were, and water stuck out. And the reason for that is obviously there's a government of Rwanda is doing a lot, and they have a beautiful ambition, which is by 2024 to have eradicated water shortage in the country. So we decided to be part of that journey.
Unilever operates in more than 190 countries and makes and sells around 400 brands that are used by 2.5 billion people daily around the world. Some of its products are available in Rwanda, such as Sunlight soaps, which were freely distributed to residents during the water supply project that has been launched.
And so what we decided to do is to build water centers that are sponsored by one of our brands. We looked at all the brands that we have, and we thought Sunlight would make sense to do that. And the reason for that is because Sunlight is a laundry powder. And a laundry powder, you clean your clothes using water, so which is why then water becomes an important player. And so what we did is that we went and worked with the local district of Nyaruguru, and we created 4 water centers which are going to impact about 700 families, which is about 2,800, 3,000 people, and a bit more, because there's schools and communities around the water centers. And so what we do is that we actually build an extension facility where water is piped to the nearest point in the village or in the community, and villagers can come and get water from there. Of course, the government is going to run the facility. What we do is that we build the infrastructure. Our ambition is in the next 2 to 3 years to eradicate the water problem completely in Nyaruguru district. And as you can imagine, that's a huge ambition, because Nyaruguru district still has about 30 to 40% of their community not connected to water. And so you're talking about 300,000 people, 30% of them, you're talking about 100,000 people that still need connectivity to water, and we are interested in making sure that all those people get access to clean drinking water.
The Africa Tech Summit, bringing together Africa technology leaders to share expertise and do business, took place in Kigali. The summit brought together creatives sharing insights from industry leaders, including Microsoft, Safaricom, Econet Media Group, SAP, Uber, Gearbox, Kenyan Blockchain, and artificial intelligence. The summit consisted of 3 tracks: the Future Summit, the Africa Startup Summit, and the Creative Summit, that drove interaction and a future line of insight on fintech.
Rwanda has established itself really as a centre now of innovation in tech. And I think what we've done with Africa Tech Summit is bringing in delegates, over 500 delegates from 45 countries, is connect the Rwandan ecosystem, so the startup hubs, the innovation spaces, such as K-Lab, Impact Hub and Westerwell House. I'm connecting those guys with global investors, corporates from across Africa. So I think for Rwandans it's great because they can actually tell their story. We also have some Rwandan startups pitching on stage soon, and they're pitching to a room full of investors. So there's potential there for them to grow their business. And also I think connecting with people from across the continent enables the Rwandan startups to maybe expand to new markets too.
So we believe artificial intelligence is the next wave of technology. That is where the future is. And as a technology company, it's important for us to actually build and design that. But not just do that, but also go beyond it and empower people to actually build on those platforms and enable other people in turn. And so the Microsoft role in AI is both researching, learning, growing, and enabling other people to use it.
Africa Tech Summit Kigali is a leading African tech event providing insight and networking with the African tech ecosystem. The Africa Tech Summit brings together tech leaders, MNOs, banks, international investors, entrepreneurs, governments, trade bodies, media, and leading ventures to drive investment and business in African tech.
Africa Tech Summit this year, we've had 3 stages. So we've got the future stage, the startup stage, and the creative stage. So we've had very diverse conversations today, looking at what's happening in the startup ecosystem and how investors are investing. Excuse me. On the actual future stage, we had the Rwanda Minister for ICT speaking around how innovation and design can happen. And on the creative stage, we now have guys who are doing virtual reality and augmented reality games. So I think the beauty for us is that tech is across all these sectors, whether it's startups, the future of tech, and also Microsoft started off talking about what they're doing in AI. It's a huge topical area now, artificial intelligence. They kicked that off and really thought-provoking.
We see artificial intelligence being used, one, in our own products. So as we speak right now, you have tools that can translate. So if you're making a call on Skype as an example, you can literally translate on that. In Word, Excel, the common pieces of software that people use, that's being infused into each of them. And on the other side, we also have tools that are enabling developers to build their own solutions. And so the future is going to be a lot more around enablement, whereby we enable, one, our users directly through the software we build, and two, developers through the software they build. And that way we can enable more people to actually build more complex and better solutions that tackle the problems that we have on the continent.
And on our next story on Business Digest, we're going to be talking to the Rwandan veterinarian who designed and implemented a unique conservation project to save Rwanda's endangered grey-crowned crane by working to establish its illegal trade. Sengimana began the project in 2014 after winning the Rolex Awards for Enterprise Young Laureate Environment Honor for his efforts to protect this amazing species. Sengimana has since established the Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association, RWCA, a non-profit dedicated to expanding the research and conservation projects connected to endangered or threatened species in Rwanda, including the grey-crowned cranes.
I started off my career by working with the gorilla doctors, caring and treating the mountain gorillas. But then later on, after 5 years, in 2014, I decided to move on and start something by my own, something to make a difference for another endangered species, the grey-crowned cranes in Misambi in Kinyarwanda. So I designed a project with an innovative project with a multidisciplinary approach, showing how I can lead this initiative to make a difference, to reverse the decline of grey-crowned cranes in Rwanda. And from there, our project has been really getting a lot of success and winning a lot of awards from 2014 to 16 to 17 to 18, and this year we got the Whitley Fund for Nature.
Olivia Sengimana also happens to be one of the 3 winners of the Future for Nature Award 2019. From 125 applications from all over the world, an international jury of experts has chosen the young and talented nature conservationist as one of the winners of the award.
It's a competition. So like last year, I got the link, I saw it, and I thought to myself, like, yeah, the work we are doing, it's really good, and we are lucky to be in a country like Rwanda where we have quick results, and so we can compete, and we have everything we need to compete, and we are not scared by the international pool of competitors. So we submitted a letter of intent, and we asked some people, other people to nominate us, to recommend our work. And so the Future for Nature, they found an interest, so they invited us to giving more details. So I think like the whole competition was about 125 people. So we went through a series of screening, and I think last year, end of last year, they selected 8 finalists, and I was one of the 8 finalists. And then we had to go through other process of selection, and there was a jury that met to select 3 winners, and so we're successful. We're lucky to be one of the winner. Yeah.
And on today's segment of Market Trends, I'll be bringing you the Consumer Price Index for the month of January 2019. The Urban CPI will be the focus of the publication, as it is the headline index for monetary policy purposes. The Urban CPI increased by 1.0% on an annual basis and was stable on a monthly basis. The annual average rate between January 2019 and January 2018 was 1.3%. The rural CPI decreased by 0.4% on an annual basis and was stable on a monthly basis. The rural CPI decreased by 0.4% on annual basis and was stable on monthly basis. Rwanda CPI increased by 0.2% on an annual basis and was stable on a monthly basis. The Urban Consumer Price Index is calculated based on approximately 1,622 products in 12 urban centers of Rwanda. The Urban CPI increased by 1.0% in January 2019 compared to the same month of 2018. This was mainly due to the increase of 2.6% in prices of housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels, and 8.2% in prices of transport. The monthly CPI was stable in January 2019 compared to December 2018. The underlying inflation rate, excluding fresh food and energy, increased by 0.2% compared to December 2018 and increased by 1.5% when compared to January 2018.
That's all we had for you this week. Thank you for joining us. Business Weekly tips are up next, and I'll see you all next week.